What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video. Now today, guys, it's that time of the year, as fall is almost here. As fall is almost here, my friends, as well as winter is quickly approaching, we have ourselves our first set of 3 winter discussions for today. We'll be going over the overall temperature, precipitation, and snowfall forecast, as well as the current conditions and future expected conditions here down the line in regard to the La Nina, El Nino type of situation, what we call ENSO. Now, guys, before we go ahead and get on into it, I want to go ahead and say, if you are new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button, guys. It'd be greatly appreciated. And all right, let's go ahead and get on into it. Okay, so first things first, in order to understand what could happen down the line, we first need to know what's currently going on here. So, if we take a look here towards the central portions of the Pacific, right next to the equator, you're going to notice there's lots and lots of blue, basically saying the temperatures of the surface temperatures of the water is actually a little bit more cooler than normal. And we call that La Nina. I'm sure you guys have heard that sometime in your life. Now, remember this, because this is going to be playing a very, very important role for this upcoming winter, and we're going to notice something for this winter in particular. We're forecasting the first part of the winter to be completely different than the second portion. We completely went all out for you guys. We broke down the first half and the second half of winter for which areas could see a lot of snowfall, as well as what areas could not, honestly. So here's the graph of the trends here in regard to basically the Pacific Oscillation, or what we call ENSO, like I was talking about. So basically, like I said, the negative values is really showing us in that La Nina stage, and the latest values here are showing negative 0.8, which is honestly very, very deep La Nina. Now, obviously, if you look here at the timeline, you can obviously see this is the values, basically from we're pretty much from 0.5, so right about here, from negative 0.5, which is pretty much here. This is neutral stage, this is El Nino, and this is La Nina. And you can obviously tell here, since August, I mean, really, since that first portion of August, we've been crashing deeper into a lot more of a deeper La Nina, which we're going to show you exactly what that typically means for winter. But first of all, let's go ahead and move on over to the future projections for around wintertime and what this could look like. All right, so if you look at the bottom portion of the graph, you're going to notice some kind of weird lettering going on here, like ASO, SON. You might be wondering, well, what the heck does that mean? Now, here's the thing. DJF, you're going to look at this. This stands for December, January, and February. So this is a post over 3 months. Just letting you guys know, this is an average over the 3 months. So basically from November, December, January, into December, January, February. Now this is kind of the heart of winter, and you're going to notice something pretty interesting. So you see this big old dark green line going something like this, and this big old red line going something like this. So these are your averages between your dynamic and statistical averages. We're not going to really dive into that because that's kind of confusing for a lot of people. But anyway, so we'll just take the average point right between these two, and we're going to follow the graph. Now here's the thing. Once again, December, January, February. Now, if we line up with the graph, you're going to still see how we're pretty much past the negative 0.5 mark, still calling us for a La Nina. Now, for the next set of data for January, February, and March, for the later portions of wintertime, you're going to notice how we start to cross into the ENSO neutral, the neutral type of stage. So, as we're going to mention, like I was saying before, it looks like it's going to appear to start one way, and it could shift completely different for the second part of winter, and we're going to be describing exactly what you guys can expect. So now we're shifting gears here over to the typical La Nina pattern. Like I said, for the first part of the winter, it does appear that La Nina conditions could be favorable. So here's what we could expect based off of the historical La Nina type of pattern. So first of all, we have ourselves our polar jet stream kind of altered, kind of diving and doing a big old dive here into the Ohio Valley region. Now this typically means pretty cool conditions for portions of the north. I mean, we're talking the northern plains and the portions like, North South Dakota, portions of Montana. Now, it's going to be a lot more wet, a lot more precipitation across portions here of the northwest. Same thing for the Ohio Valley. In a typical La Nina pattern, we do see a lot more precipitation across these two areas. Now, that's completely different from the areas of the south, as we are seeing a lot more drier conditions. And the more we move to the east, like the southeastern United States, like towards, obviously like Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, like those regions, that's where the dry and the warm conditions kind of mix together. So overall, not as much snow as usual during the La Nina patterns. But as mentioned before, that's probably not going to stick around too long. So this is what a typical kind of normal conditions, a neutral phase kind of conditions would normally look like. Now here's the thing. You're going to notice, first of all, that polar jet stream is diving a lot more south, not just across the Ohio Valley, but also adding areas like the mid-Atlantic, like Virginia, Maryland, those areas too. And that usually brings down a lot more colder conditions, usually a lot more possible polar vortexes and stuff like that. So that could bring a lot more cold conditions for the end portion of the year across portions of the north. Now, that precipitation does actually shift from the Ohio Valley down to the south, which that's kind of what we're forecasting, as you guys are going to see in the overall outlook as well. And now here's the thing. The warm conditions do do still kind of persist across portions of the southeast, but they actually extended into portions of the western United States. And we actually have ourselves the subtropical jet stream diving in a lot of water, a lot of moisture. Like I said, that could potentially fuel maybe some more further snowstorms down to the south. So we're going to really need to dive into that very, very closely. Okay, so believe it or not, there is another possible variable that could really alter some storms here. So we're going to need to talk about this as well. Now, I promise you this is the last little bit. But anyways, regardless though, this is what we call the NAO. This is the North Atlantic Oscillation. Now, this is a positive phase, as you can actually see up there. This is a normal positive phase. Now, like I was saying, we are seeing the possibility, during these positive phases, we have ourselves, obviously a lot more warmer conditions across the southeast and a little bit more, obviously towards like the Canadian and Maritime region. Obviously a little bit more colder and more, more sea ice and stuff like that. But just know that during the positive phases, it could be in a lot of warm areas for areas like the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Southeast. Now, for snow lovers, it's the negative phase that you guys would typically want to see. So usually what happens is we have a lot of high pressure across portions here of the central Atlantic, basically causing a lot of troughing and ridge in action, a lot of those deeper jet stream dips and a lot of upper level jet stream, peaks and stuff like that. So here's the thing. Now, what this usually means is this actually can bring down a little bit more snow and a little bit more cooler conditions, possibly leading up to some of those polar vortexes and stuff like that. It really depends. I mean, this can definitely contribute to it. So typically, if we want more snow more down south, we want a negative phase. Now, current conditions is showing us well into the positive range here. We can see ever really since July, we were kind of there at that neutral stage, really moving its way up here into the positives. Now, know that this can actually fluctuate quite a bit, and it could indeed change. Now, the forecast models, I couldn't really find anything in terms of what the forecast conditions could look like really far out, because, these models don't really go as far out from what I've seen. But anyways, so we're going to need to continue watching this, and obviously as we start to approach the last updates in regard to the wintertime, then we're going to need to do a big update on the NAO phase. Alrighty, you guys, so it's the moment you all have been waiting for. Now, guys, I want to go ahead and say, if you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button, guys. This did take me a while to make, so if you guys could leave a like as well, be greatly, greatly appreciated. I mean, without your guys' support, we would not be able to do this. So once again, big shout out goes to you guys. Thank you all for watching this. So I ended up splitting this into two different halves, you guys. Like I said, for the first part of the wintertime, I do expect that La Nina to be possible. So going from La Nina to neutral conditions, there is a bit of a swap. So I broke this down into the first and half part of winter. So for the first part of winter here, for December into January, we're taking a look at the temperature outlook. We actually do have a shade that is above average. Now, these are the regions here across portions of the southern plains, like Texas, Oklahoma, into the southeast, where we could see some of those temperatures more above average than normal for this time of the year. So for December and January, it's going to be a little bit more warmer across these areas here in this yellow shaded color. Now, in regard to the below average temperatures, there is a shade. There's only one shade across portions here of the upper portions of the country for the northern plains like North South Dakota, portions of Minnesota, obviously up towards the northwest like Montana, Idaho, and obviously Washington State and so on. So those are the regions here we are expected to see maybe a slightly bit below average temperatures. Now, like we were seeing there with the La Nina pattern, we do have that jet stream really diving down south into portions of the Ohio Valley. Now, that's going to really be driving a lot of moisture, as you're about to see. So now we're taking a look here at the overall precipitation outlook from December to January, still looking at the first half of winter here. So here is the below average precipitation areas. So across portions of the southeast, I mean, obviously we're dealing with a little bit more heat as well. So heat and kind of dry air is kind of expected, or dry conditions is kind of expected across the southeast, leading into portions of really the whole entire southern United States, where we are pretty confident we could see ourselves more below average precipitation. Now, believe it or not, we do actually have another shade of below average precipitation. This is where it's more likely. Portions across portions here of obviously Arizona, portions here of New Mexico, as well as Texas. So those are the regions where we are very, very confident that we are going to see some below average precipitation. Now, it's not all bad news, because there's a lot of snow up ahead for quite a bit of people. So especially across portions of the Ohio Valley, I mean, we're talking Tennessee Valley as well. Like I said, during a typical La Nina pattern, we do see a lot more of that moisture being brought down, as we just discussed, as that jet stream does drive a lot more storm action across these regions, which could lead to some isolated totals of maybe a little bit more snow than normal. Across the northwest, kind of the same deal. Now, here's the thing, you guys. there's another shade of above average precipitation. Now, this is the area we are very, very confident where we could see a lot more precipitation across portions here of Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, southeastern portions of Missouri, and northern portions of Tennessee. So that is the overall precipitation outlook for the first half of winter. Alrighty, guys, so before we go ahead and move on into the second part of the winter forecast, I want to go ahead and say, guys, we have a pretty cool merch store down below. You guys can check it all out there. There's a link in the description. We also have our Discord and stuff like that if you guys would be interested. Everything is linked down below. So now we're moving on into the second half of winter for portions of February and March, and you're going to notice there's a lot more kind of crazy conditions that's expected for the second half. So first off, once again, we're starting with the below average, the above average temperatures in regard to this case here. So once again, across the south, you know, honestly, it's looking like it's going to be relatively above average in regard to temperatures. But wait till we move into the below average temperature zone. So here we go. Here's the first shade of the below average temperatures covering a lot of the country, the Northeast, the Ohio Valley, portions here of the Midwest and Northern Plains here. We have a second and a third shade for persons basically expected where we could see those temperatures well more below average. Now, like I said, with a normal or neutral condition, we usually see that jet stream diving down a lot more further down to the south. That could bring a lot more polar vortexes, a lot more of those cold Arctic blasts driving their way down into the country. So overall, we do expect a very, very cold second half to the winter. And then, of course, we have ourselves our precipitation outlook in regard to February and March. So believe it or not, there's actually no areas as of now of below average precipitation. Now, starting off with the above average, this is some pretty crazy news, you guys. So obviously across a lot of the country, I am expecting to see a lot more above average precipitation with some of these systems being brought down by the very, very strong troughing that we have here. Like I said, the jet stream's really diving more to the south, driving more systems across portions here of the Northern Plains, Midwest, Ohio Valley, portions of the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast. Now, there is actually another shade and the final shade of above average precipitation. Once again, as we did witness in the neutral conditions, there is a lot more precipitation is expected across portions of the southeast. Now, like we were talking about though, it's still going to be a little bit warm across some of these locations, although for the second half of winter, I would definitely say that is a big possibility. We could see some of those more storms or some more of those storms dive their way more down to the south, maybe delivering a little bit more snow across portions of the southeast. But anyways, guys, let's go ahead and move on into the final snowfall forecast, mixing the temperatures and the precipitation together, and we'll see what areas has the best chance of seeing snow for next year. And guys, to wrap it up here, we're taking a look at the overall forecast for you guys. We're taking a look here at the conditions that we are expecting across the nation. So first off, we're going to go ahead and start off in the orange category across portions of the south. Those are the regions where it's kind of iffy. Honestly, not really expecting too much snow for this year. So those regions down south, your chances are looking a little bit kind of sketch. Now, moving on into portions of the Northeast, where the pink color is, that's the region where we could see some multiple nor'easters, especially if the NAO phase is in that negative zone we were talking about. That negative definitely favors some more nor'easters as we have deeper troughing, and overall that could lead to more snow across portions of the Northeast. I really think for later portions of the year, especially for obviously February and March, I think those regions across the Northeast could get a decent amount of snowfall. Moving on over here to the yellow regions across portions here of the western country where the Rockies are, this is the region where we could see a decent amount of upper level snowfall for some areas, maybe even a few little storms here across portions here of the central country. It's where a few storms could be possible. Now we're moving on in here across portions of the purple of the Northwest. Now this is the regions, especially in the beginning portion of the winter, we could see a decent amount of snow activity across the way. Like I said, typically in La Nina, we usually do get a bit more wet conditions across the Northwest, leading to possibly some more of those, like I said, possibly some more of those snowstorms being possible, especially for the forest portion. So that's the region where I'd say decent amounts of snowstorms could indeed be a possibility. Second to last across portions of the southeastern United States, we have that light blue area. Now that's the region where towards the end of the year, as that jet stream is shifting more down to the south, bringing a lot more troughing and ridging going on in the country, that could obviously lead up to maybe some far down south snowstorms across portions of the southeast. I'd say snow is more likely this year than it has been over the last few years. And lastly, guys, the big blue area, that is where we are expecting multiple snowstorms across the region. That's kind of where we are seeing some possible polar vortexes as well, as we're seeing multiple shots of cold air, except more possibly in the later portions of the year, being expected. But anyways, guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap up the update for you guys here for today. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure you leave a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys. Like I said, this did take me a while to make, so if you guys could, it'd be greatly appreciated. All the support is greatly much appreciated. But anyways, you guys, thank you all so much for joining us for today, and hope to see you guys here in the next one. Anyways, y'all, thank you for joining us. Catch you all in the next one.